Hello, this is Mike, and you're looking at a Turkish Tomahawk that I redid. Let's get into this gun and talk about what happened and what we did. So it's a Turkish Tomahawk. This is done for a friend of mine named Dave. It's a rather old project. I did do a Tomahawk before with an O-ring piston cap and a low powered gas ram, and our results were outstanding. And 22 cal for the first one we did. We got a little over 800 feet per second at my high elevation of 3,100 feet. This one didn't work out so good. We couldn't do the O-ring piston cap, even though we did try several different attempts. In checking the receiver tube, initially it seemed like it was pretty good, but it just wouldn't take the O-ring piston cap. So obviously there's something there that is a little irregular. As far as feet per second, it was the same with our custom seal. It couldn't get up there to where we normally would like to see it because of the air chamber. But she's getting 750 feet per second at my high elevation. So I usually tend to lose around 20 feet per second for those of you who are in the lower elevation. It's a 22 cal. We rebarreled it in a Loather Walther Barrel. And we actually cerakoted the entire gun as well. The piston has a bearing ring installed on it. We tried two different power plants, all kinds of configurations. We've really been through the mill with this gun. One thing I wish I would have done ahead of time is not cerakote it until we were completely done, and then when we were finally there with our results, take the gun apart and then cerakote it. This gun's been apart so many times and I wound up cerakoting it the first time. So that's a mistake and a lesson well learned. Let's get a closer look. We also did a new barrel pivot bolt because I like tighter tolerances. There was film clips for this particular project and I wound up trashing them because it just got to be too long and too frustrating. So there's a new barrel pivot bolt. I don't know if you can see the end there on this side. And also we did the jam, the spring jam on these guns, the holes for them. The tolerances aren't as good as I would like. It's just the way they are, so I made a bigger jam to fit the hole better, and that was a bit of a process as well. Now the barrel block on this wasn't the original one. We wound up using one from a 95 and then we got rid of that. This one came from a gun that somebody had, a Turkish Tomahawk, that already did it. They already rebarreled it, but they did it wrong. I wound up buying that gun and took the barrel out, but I used the block. Those blocks on the Tomahawk are slightly rounded over here, where the Hatsons are just flat and square. So here the barrel is shrouded, and then there's a custom handbrake that I made for it. Handbrake looks cool, but I'm telling you, it just takes too much time. It's not worth my time to be making handbrakes, but it was cool, and I'm glad I did for this particular project. So we got the gun kind of beat up, taken apart, and going through it, all different things, including the air chamber porthole. That was oversized as well. I couldn't believe it, but we wound up putting a brass bushing in there to take care of that. Back here, one of the two screws from the scope stop. I don't expect this camera to zoom. This camera's been giving me some problems. So what I did was re-drilled and tapped both holes, and we put in beefier screws, and then we took the heads of the screws down because they were kind of hitting each other. We took care of that problem. Trigger's tuned. There's a locking washer on the rear stock bolts. What else is there? Well, we have our own custom piston seal. The gas ram in here, we gas rammed it, of course, with a low powered gas ram. It's around 135 to 140 bar fill from a Crossman Nitro Venom. That's what fits these guns. And like I said, that's what we used on our first Tomahawk, and we got excellent results with that O-ring piston cap. Let's go around to the other side. I don't know if it's going to take or not. Here you can see a little part of the gun's been beat up a little bit. I'll see if you can see the screw, the bolt for the pivot bolt there. It has one notch in it, and that notch is set for tight, where the little locking screw is. And then there's the brass pin locking the barrel into the block. This one, like I said, was already rebarreled, and I took the barrel out of it just to get to the block. And there is the front brake again. So it's a sweet rifle. It's pretty cool. I really like the fact that they have the white butt spacer on the butt pad there. Let me get out of here. It's a little bit of a tight fit. But it was a long ordeal, and I'm glad I finally finished it up. Now let's talk about these barrels. You can see a lot of them here on my bench. I'm going to be putting these barrels up for sale. These are your 20 cal Loather Walther barrels right here. I don't know if you can see any of that, but they're not up to my par. So if anybody needs some 20 cal barrels, you just give me a ring, and I'll sell a lot to you, plus shipping. The thing about the barrels is, if you go to rebarrel the guns, you're going to have, no matter how nice you do them, it's just the way it is. They normally get done, so it's a very light press fit. It almost has to fit where you can get it in by hand. It's very close. Barrels are very touchy. So even just machining a barrel, if you don't do it properly, you can overdo it, and then your bore is going to change in that area that you machined. The diameter will. So one of the things when you're all done, you're going to find that your barrel's not where it's supposed to be as far as straight and perfect. So you take your scope and you zero the reticle out to center, both vertical and horizontal. Then you mount it. Then you go out there and you put a bullseye on your target board. Say I'm at 17 yards. You aim for your bullseye and you see how far off the point of impact is compared to that bullseye with that zero scope that you just put on. And if it's like as far as like 6 inches, then if you're me, I'm going to bend that barrel to get that to within 1 inch of the bullseye dot, because the next guy's going to have a different scope setup most likely. So I don't like to go exactly to the center. I go within 1 inch of vertical and horizontal. But then what happens is often the barrel, you can see if you get back, has a little bit of wave because you adjusted it by bending it and shaping it. So then when those are the cases, you wind up sleeving it. And the sleeve gives you plenty of room to put your shims front and back in order to compensate for what's kind of going on in the middle there. And that's just the way it is. You're not going to rebarrel a gun and it's going to be perfect. That's just not going to happen. But anyway, all of them are different. Now I will say, since we're talking about barrels, let's talk about barrels real quick. If you check your bore, make sure you clean it first. I usually just clean it with the Goo Gone, and there's some right down there. And these two patches are coming out clean. Then dry the bore, and then do your pellet to bore test. Now currently I'm waiting from Loather Walther to tell me when they get their 20 cal pellets in, because I tried ordering a barrel and I told them I want that barrel tested, because often I'll get a barrel that's say 22 inches and I can only use what I'm going to use out of it. The rest is no good. It's just that you use the best part of that barrel, it's not going to be perfect all the way through. Now you can take a Virock for example for my point here. This is a medium-sized Magnum at 800 feet per second, and Virocks aren't quite getting there. So on most of their rifles, because they're built for balance and designed to be what they are. So you can have a barrel and a Virock that isn't, say, a consistent pellet to bore snug fit, but it's kind of like a light pellet to bore fits with maybe a loose spot, and then there's a choke at the end. Well, that's great for a Virock, and that barrel should perform just like it's supposed to. But these barrels that are like that on a mid-size Magnum is just not going to work. First of all, you'll get blow-by, which creates recoil with your pellet on a mid-size Magnum, and then higher. You need a good, smooth, snug pellet to bore fit, consistent, as what you're looking for, and it's what is desired and what you want with a gun like that. And these Loather Walther barrels over here are not working for me. They didn't make my standards. So I'm going to be selling them and getting rid of them. Whoever wants them, let me know. And they're going to be going for whatever. You can have a whole bunch of them for $100. Just throw the shipping in there. But anyway, that's what you get with barrels. And so Loather Walther's getting the 20 cal pallets in for me. I offered to send them some, but I didn't get a reply on that. And that's just the way it is. You know, Loather Walther company is no different than any other company. The tooling will wear down. And, you know, these machines spit these things out, and not everything is going to be perfect. I don't care whose name is on it. That's just the way it is in manufacturing. But here we are. I'm going to get a hold of Dave and tell him his gun's all done. It's a shame the barrel block had to look like this, but that's because this came from a different gun that was a Tomahawk that somebody did already, and I had to pull the barrel out of it. So it actually has 2 pins in it. They just did it totally wrong. But anyway, we were able to use the block, and that was cool. So it's a smooth shooter and getting 750 feet per second here at my elevation. So lower elevation, obviously, we get around 20 feet per second more. Well, that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. I have one more Tomahawk left. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it. I believe it's a 177. A lot of guys says, oh, my Tomahawk was absolutely great. Never had any problems with it. Well, you know what? Good for you. That's great. It's not what I found on this one or a couple other ones as well. Take care, be safe, and thanks for hanging out.